have my own training place in my house. I do it barefoot. Is it a good idea to train barefoot, Thomas?
Yes. So in general, training barefoot is super fine and there's no problem with it unless you have like issues with your feet where you feel more comfortable wearing footwear. There are some exceptions. If you are a little bit more advanced in your training, then, for example, it can help to wear a very stable footwear while squatting heavy. So that's why many powerlifters, for example, they use a very, how should I say, it's almost like a wooden sole on the footwear. It's very durable, very hard, so that they have more stability. Basically, the more stability you have, the better you can transfer the force into the ground for squatting. You might see improvements in performance, but for general health, like say in general, it does not harm you in any way. So it's fine to train barefoot. For deadlifting, for example, you even want to have a straight foot position, like not an elevated foot position. So it's, for example, a bad idea to do deadlifts or squats with an elevated heel, typical sneaker. Because first of all, you're not as stable. And second of all, it raises your hips up and forward a bit. And that's often not optimal for deadlifting because you can basically use your hips less when deadlifting.
That is exactly the way that I threw out my back yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm a moron. I usually train barefoot, right? Yeah. But it's cold. So I had my Crocs on and I said, I'm going to leave them on. And then I started the lift. And then I realized that my toesies were pointing up. And I meant to correct that mid-lift. Immediately. I lost tension and I immediately felt like everything was wrong. Footwear is important.
For example, if some people come to me and want to learn to squat, I often have them either barefoot or in socks just to get the movement down and then use footwear. And with the caveat that if you wear footwear, it has to be either flat, super flat, or very minimalistic, like a barefoot shoe, but not a typical sneaker. That's not good for weightlifting because you lose stability and it's actually more dangerous and you have less performance simply. And that's usually not good. Like if you can have a more stable surface, if you do squats, for example, if you do a one-legged squat with a wobbly shoe, it's dangerous, way more dangerous than if you do it barefoot or with a stable foot.
Recommended, let's say, for example, recommended brands would be like Chucks would be ideal.
Chucks would be ideal
I've seen
for
people
deadlifting.
lifting with Chucks.
Yes. Yeah. Many powerlifters use Chucks, but also like many brands that have just a very simple flat sole, right? So I know Vivo is a good brand. I use Vivo barefoot. They're like the 5 fingers, they look a bit weird. They're also barefoot shoes, you know, with the toes.
They freak people out, but they are pretty good.
You look like a crocodile kind of. I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah. And for men, I mean, men are a lot more like self-aware of how I'm not looking like a fool in the gym. But there are like those minimalistic that you can wrap around your feet. Those are very pretty and they don't look weird at all.
Definitely minimalistic is usually the way to go.
You are going to pay gym. And that is the thing that brought me to this topic, because there is this dude that used to go and he was like barefoot on the surfaces that are going to be touched by other people. Man, don't do that. Guys, listen, don't expose your freaking feet to this. Ugh, man, feet are disgusting.
Yeah, in general, yes.
In general, yes.
I mean, that's just obvious manners, right? So in the gym, if you like,
hygiene is so important. Even if they don't stink or you don't have an outrageous fungus or something like that, it is just such an intimate thing. That is my problem with jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah, because there is so much. Yeah, there is so much feet touching. You wear the garments and everything. Yeah. Like, why does it have to be barefoot? I just don't understand. I come home and I shower like I was just abused.
Okay.
In this episode of Autoregulate, I had the absolute pleasure to talk to Thomas Campidell once again. Thomas has a Master of Science in Psychology and is the author of several scientific publications. He is the leading tutor for the German version of Menno Henselmans PT course and an online trainer and overall nerd/badass. And I'm also lucky enough to have him among my unofficial teachers. In this episode, we discussed gym etiquette, supplements, footwear for lifting, and the cultural implications of sauna in different countries. Because yes, everybody has different habits in the sauna. We will discuss that in depth. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and as always, never forget to auto-regulate.
But first, how have you been? I didn't even let you talk.
I've been very good, actually. I've had a nice summer, very productive, almost a bit like I was so happy and productive that I almost worked too much. Like I had to dial it back a little bit. So I was like did a lot of content and stuff, but now I have to dial it back. But now it's okay. So I'm very good. Not yet in a winter depression or something. So it's all good.
Do you ever get affected by that?
Do you mean by depression or by overworking?
No, I'm like that manic phase of overworking during the summer
absolutely.
And then going down on the winter.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very how should I say, addictive personality. So I like to go all in, right? So I go a little bit too hard and then have to dial it back. But I've now found in my life that I have to use those phases to sort of, I can be super productive. It's insane. Like I can do so much, but then I have to dial it back forcefully. Otherwise I would get sick. So that's the problem.
That is true. That is
because
totally
you're just,
true.
I need to work. And then I go out with friends and then, what's about work. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah. I have to forcefully, it's even worse if you're like self-employed, because then you have to be strict about yourself, right?
And you're always thinking,
you live and learn.
Am I doing the best use of my time right now? I could be reading.
Exactly.
I could be editing that video. I could be doing something else. Oh my God.
How about you? How have you been in general this year? Better than last year, probably?
Totally better. I feel much, I don't know. I'm not gonna say I figured a way of doing my things, but I already figured out a rhythm, and I think that's the most important thing. Like having a routine,
sure.
Even if the routine doesn't really work, a bad plan is always better than no plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I have been doing much better. With the class, with the PT course. Man, I'm in love. It's tough. Right, it's really tough.
Mostly which module are you at?
We just passed energy.
Oh yeah, those are like the most intensive ones. The more you go into the course, the less effortful it is. So those are the ones are like really in depth. So
I mean, the first one, where you learn how to read literature and you know how to discriminate. Man, that really. I mean, I'm gonna try to be politically correct. That really tickled my asshole.
Oh really? Because I wrote that one, how to do research, right? That one.
Yeah, because I realized I have no idea how to read research. I have no idea because I have certain trusted sources, but beyond my sources, I have no idea how to approach material by myself. No idea. And now I feel like I have been given the tools. I'm using them very bluntly, but I am excited to actually. I can do this by myself.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I know. Absolutely. So many things. Cool. Yeah. You wrote that one. Oh man.
Yes.
Rough. And the energy one. It is pretty hard. It is
Menno.
pretty hard.
Yeah. I mean but it's very in depth at first. You'll see also like the proteins goes very in depth, and then it goes more and more towards the practical side. So a lot of people worry after the first 4 weeks or so because it's so intense and so in depth. Do I need to know all of this for the exam and stuff? It's like, no, it's just that you have to have the basics at one point, right? So
yeah, I bet many people freak out in the beginning. Many people freak out in the beginning. But I was thinking, I mean, like in the case of having a client, I am not going to have to explain all of these things, but it is important that I know.
Exactly, or that and you to look it up, right?
That I know where to find it.
Yeah, exactly. That's also the purpose. Cool.
No, I'm very excited. I'm very excited.
And you're doing it in Spanish, right?
I can do it in Spanish, and I did it in Spanish because I was scared of the content.
In English.
And no, in German. Not in English. I was scared of the content in German. And then I thought, no, I have Luis and I have Oscar and I know them. Yeah. That nepotist component, and the fact that I knew that it was going to be pretty hardcore material, so I prefer to get them in my mother language. However, I had an experience last week that made me question that decision a little bit, because I have my jiu-jitsu trainer, my BJJ trainer. He's amazing, and during the pandemic time, he gained a little bit of weight. So he decided by himself that he was going to go on a detox phase.
Whatever that means.
Whatever the hell that means. And I'll tell you what it means. So a detox phase. And that he was going to cut. And I was like, oh, so you're going, okay. but we lost contact during the pandemic, and then he started doing his thing. Okay, so he came back, like, I don't know how many kilos did he lose. He lost a lot of weight and a lot of size. And he came back like triumphantly with a before and after picture. But the before and after picture are the exact same person but smaller. And I was like, no, man. And he didn't ask me a question. So I bit my tongue not to say anything. And then I realized, as he was explaining to me what he had done, that even if I had wanted to tell him anything about it, I could not, because I don't know how to speak those terms in German. I don't know.
I see. So you felt like you're missing the influential vocabulary to do it, right? Of
course. Yeah, because I was like, I could say this in Spanish, I could say this in English. He wouldn't understand in English, he wouldn't understand Spanish. Yeah, I mean, had he asked that question, because I'm like a vampire. Before you invite me, I don't come in, because it's a pain in the ass. I mean, you become annoying to people. But even if I had wanted to, I couldn't have. Yeah. And then he started like explaining to me how he did it. Well, basically he did lots of cardio, and he reduced his calorie intake like savagely. Yeah. And he used fat burners like products, and he told me that they are not cheap, but they are very effective. Look at that. And I was like, really? Can I see the product? And it was like carnitine and all of them. Like,
lots of caffeine because it blunts your appetite. Usually the fat burner. Yes. I mean, many people just I know. It's just also with many popular programs, that yesterday I talked to a guy, for example, about Weight Watchers, and Weight Watchers legitimately has a system. So if you're, for example, a woman and you have a certain weight, if you lose weight, you gain points or something. If you gain weight or stay at the same weight, you have to either pay more or you lose points or something. So like literally the coach, how much you pay the coach is dependent on your weight, which doesn't make any sense at all, because you might gain 2 kilos of weight, but your body is a lot better, more muscle, less fat, but you still have to pay more. Yeah, First, it's ethically weird. Second, it just doesn't make sense scientifically. But yeah, I mean, if you just care about the scale, then don't eat and run all day, right?
And it was a woman?
It was a guy who told me, but he knows a woman who does Weight Watchers, and and basically they're fully focused on just cardio and those point system. A very dumbed down way of calorie counting, right? With points, certain foods have certain points.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is somewhat good to have points for some foods, but fundamental theory is flawed.
And how do you approach not just vomiting in like in the face of people who come to you telling you those things?
Yeah, the problem is you can't be on your high horse and say, ha ha ha, I know everything and you have to do this and this, because that's not their language, right? So it's right. It's literally a little bit like selling. Like you have to ask and be super empathetic to, okay, what's this person about? Like, what is their world in fitness? Like, what terms do they use? What do they mean if they say, I want to be more defined? If someone comes to me and says, ich möchte definieren, that could mean he wants to be super lean and shredded. For the other, it could be, I want to be a little bit more muscular. For the other one, it could be completely something different. I want to look like a swimmer or something. So at first, it's the vocabulary that has to match. Then I always ask what sort of resources they have already, because from that I can figure out what their basic beliefs are about dieting, because often the basic beliefs are completely wrong. You can have a person who doesn't know anything about how to get in shape and has very vague ideas, like you have to train a certain training program, and then nutrition somewhat matters, but not really, right? So like completely misguided. Then you have other people who exactly know scientifically what to do, but don't know how to do it. So they always slip up, right? It's a behavioral issue. And it's sort of like most people that I coach nowadays fall into the camp of like, how can we optimize and how can we basically get you to adhere to the behavior that you know you should be doing and learn some, rather than getting someone completely new into basically teaching them the basics. I mean, I'd still do it, but it's less of my work nowadays. Yeah, but it's important. It's important.
And do you prefer to coach people who are a little knowledgeable or just virgins?
In person, I don't mind if someone is a virgin or not.
Okay.
If someone is very new. But online, you kind of have to have a little bit of experience. If you coach online, you do training programs, nutrition, consulting.
Right.
If you do video checks with the form. So if you want to, as an online coach, you definitely want people to have a certain amount of expertise. Otherwise, it just doesn't work in terms of the format.
Right. Okay.
That's very important.
And that brings me to the topic of the day. Yes. That is the bro science.
The bro science.
The bro science. Can you please, for my listeners that might not be familiar with the term, can you please explain what the term means?
The term bro science originated some, decades ago, where suddenly we found a term that the general person lifting in the gym that is somewhat muscular, has a big bicep, reads some bit of research in the internet, gets his nose into the scientific world, reads a study or reads one quote from a study, and then goes into the gym and says, bro, you got to train arms 3 times a week. It's science, bro. Right?
Bro.
So that they're the term bro science is essentially a little bit of a mock for people who don't actually know science, but add bro at the end of their sentences, I guess. And then we call it bro science, right? So you have to train like this, bro. So it's like the bro science approach is basically a very naive way of approaching a scientific mind.
Which is, I have to eat my part of the cake of shit in that because I that's the way that you start. Because you become curious, you want to optimize your practice, and you have no idea how. So you start like snooping around, and the amount of misinformation that you can find if you don't know how to look for it, it's overwhelming. So you just go to Google, you ask Google, and you get some information, or you ask somebody, and maybe they are trying to sell your product, and then they are going to tell you all kinds of crazy shit. For example, I recently, but I had a translation contract for Herbalife. Oh my God, I felt like I was raping my soul. But that's the kind of thing that people usually find when you go on the internet.
I know.
On the internet.
I know. Detox, Herbalife, fat burning.
Detox, fat burning machine, fat burning zone.
I know,
right.
I know.
Let's clean up your liver. Okay.
I know.
So we are going to start.
Yeah.
I have some statements or some things that I haven't really I have seen someplace and they look bro sciencey. And I'm gonna get your opinion on each one of those. The first one goes to gym equipment. I have to make a what do you call that? A disclaimer. I train barefoot because I have my own training place in my house, which is also my office. I do it barefoot. Is it a good idea to train barefoot, Thomas?
Yes. So in general, training barefoot is super fine. And there's no problem with it unless you have issues with your feet where you feel more comfortable wearing footwear. There are some exceptions. If you are a little bit more advanced in your training, then, for example, it can help to wear a very stable footwear while squatting heavy. So that's where many powerlifters, for example, they use a very, how should I say, it's almost like a wooden sole on the footwear. It's very durable, very hard, so that they have more stability. Basically, the more stability you have, the better you can transfer the force into the ground for squatting. And barefoot, it's also good, but it's not as good, right? So you want unless you have a super hard surface on the ground, you might see improvements in performance. But for general health, I could almost say in general, it does not harm you in any way. So it's fine to train barefoot. For deadlifting, for example, you even want to have a straight foot position, not an elevated foot position. So it's, for example, a bad idea to do deadlifts or squats with an elevated heel typical sneaker, because first of all, you're not as stable, and second of all, it raises your hips up and forward a bit, and that's often not optimal for deadlifting, because you can basically use your hips less when deadlifting.
That is exactly the way that I threw out my back yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm a moron. I usually train barefoot, right? Yeah. But it's cold. So I had my Crocs on and I said, I'm gonna leave them on. And then I lifted, I started the lift, and then I realized that my toesies were pointing up, and I meant to correct that mid-lift.
And then you lost
immediately.
Tension.
I lost tension, and I immediately felt like, oh, son of a bitch. Everything was wrong. Everything went down. So yeah, footwear is important. So it is not mandatory. It is not mandatory to wear.
Absolutely. Okay. So for example, if some people come to me and want to learn to squat, I often have them either barefoot or in socks just to get the movement down, and then use footwear. And with the caveat that if you wear footwear, it has to be either flat, super flat, or very minimalistic, like a barefoot shoe, but not a typical sneaker. That's not good for weightlifting, because you lose stability and it's actually more dangerous and you have less performance simply. And that's usually not good. Like if you can have a more stable surface, if you do squats, for example, if you do a one-legged squat with a wobbly shoe, it's dangerous. It's way more dangerous than if you do it barefoot or with a stable footwear. So.
And you're telling me like if I could do one-legged squat. But yeah, right.
Fun. Yeah.
And so recommended, let's say, for example, recommended brands would be like Chucks would be ideal.
Chucks would be ideal.
I have seen people lifting with Chucks.
Yes. Yeah. Many powerlifters use Chucks, but also like many brands that have just a very simple flat sole, right? So I know Vivo is a good brand. I use Vivo barefoot. I'm not affiliated in any way, but
I've heard them. No, I wish.
They are like the 5 fingers. They look a bit weird. They're also barefoot shoes, with the toes.
They freak people out, but they are pretty good.
They look you look like a crocodile kind of. I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah, and for men, men are a lot more like self-aware of how I'm not looking like a fool in the gym. But there are like those minimalistic that you can wrap around your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very pretty, and they don't look weird at all.
Yeah, definitely minimalistic is usually the way to go.
Now, if you're going to a public gym, or if you are going to a paid gym,
sure.
And that is the thing that brought me to this topic, because there is this dude that used to go, and he was like barefoot on the surfaces that are going to be touched by other people. Man, don't do that. Guys, listen, don't expose your freaking feet to this. Ugh, man, feet are disgusting.
Yeah, in general, yes.
In general, yes.
Depends on the person. But I mean, that's just obvious manners, right? So in the gym, if you I would agree. So that especially if it's a platform where there are many people.
Hygiene is so important. Even if they don't stink, or you don't have an outrageous fungus or something like that, it is just such an intimate thing. That is my problem with jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah, because there is so much. Yeah, there is so much feet touching, and it's you wear the garments and everything. Yeah. Like, why does it have to be barefoot? I just don't understand. I come home and I shower like I was just abused. That is super disgusting. But okay, so that was the first one. I hope that everybody has a clear idea of what kind of footwear it's better.
Yeah. So the summary is just either wear just socks or something hygienic, or very minimalistic footwear. And if you want to go into powerlifting, you can wear powerlifting shoes for squats, but for deadlifting, always flat shoes. That's the summary.
And what about those shoes that have an elevated heel? Those are more for squatting.
Powerlifting. Yeah, for squatting. Never use those for deadlifting, because they bring your hip forward. So it's more a knee dominant squat if you squat. But for deadlifting, you need your hips to be back as far as possible. And if you raise your heel,
it's going to be a problem. I've seen by my injury.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about, now that we are in the gym etiquette.
Yes.
Row. There is a phenomenon that I have seen that I have never been part of, but it makes me wonder. And it's the phenomenon of the spotter.
Yes. the spotting culture.
Do you need a spotter or not?
It depends what your goals are. Because in general, I would say no, you absolutely don't need a spotter. And then it also depends on the exercise. So it depends on you, on the exercise, on your goals. For example, if you do a bench press, a barbell bench press on the, you have a barbell, you go all out, you always want to have a spotter. Always. You always want to have someone, like, if you can't get the bar up anymore, you don't want to be in a position where the bar is just on your chest, like you can't get it off anymore. You can't stand up and you break your rib cage, right? You don't want that to happen.
Has that ever happened to you, that you are like trapped onto the bar?
No, fortunately not. But I always use a spotter. But I've seen people who got stuck in the gym. Right. So if you get stuck, you need to, yell for help, and then someone needs to help you.
That is so humiliating.
Funny enough, it's more of a problem for beginners who don't know their limits yet. Because if you're advanced, you kind of know if you have a rep left or not. But if you're a beginner and you go all out, you think you have one more, and then you get stuck, and it's like, it's
what
not only
do?
awkward.
How do you get out?
Yeah, you just have to yell for help, and then someone has to help you.
Or you have to do the roll of shame. And
roll of shame if you can, but it's very injurious, because having like 40, 50, 60 kilos, roll down. Yeah. So not recommendable. And then
so in bench pressing.
Bench press, you have to have a spotter. Yeah. And the second movement is squats, where you, depending on the setup, if you go all out with squats, you want to have either pins on the side, right? If you can't, because it's very, very potentially dangerous. If you go up and you can't get a rep up, you would fall down and you are under the bar. Right. So you have to drop it like behind you, which is, if you're an experienced
dangerous
lifter,
for people behind you.
Dangerous for people behind you, if there are people behind you, but also if you are not an experienced lifter, you might get stuck there. So what can be dangerous if the bar falls over your head, and you can injure your head, right? So you always want to have pins on the side if you go all out with spotting, or a spotter. But usually most cages do have pins. So you can like basically add 2 bars, you put them at the lowest setting, and then should you not be able to go up, you can drop the bar. But usually you shouldn't squat that hard that you can't get it up anymore, the bar.
I don't think I have ever felt like I had to fail a squat.
Yeah, you shouldn't train squats that close to failure. You should usually have 1 or 2 reps left in the tank. And then the funny problem, that's what you probably alert to, is that people, if they spot too early and they make it a partner exercise. So either you squat and then someone squats with you by grabbing you at the rib cage and then squatting with you, which essentially defeats the purpose of the exercise, because
it's stupid and it looks stupid.
He looks stupid, you look stupid. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. The only goal of a spotter should be he or she should help you if you are in need of assistance, and to make it safe, right? In German, it's also called "Kannst du mich sichern?" Can you save me, right?
Okay.
And I don't know why it's called spotting. So basically, it's the safety person in German, right? If it's translated literally. Okay. And that's what the purpose should be. Also in bench pressing, for example, most spotters make the mistake that they help at the first sign of struggle. But that's not what you want to do, because it defeats the purpose, right? If I'm doing bench press, it might look to some people like I'm struggling from the second rep onwards, but I might still have 5 more reps left. And then I always have to tell them directly, please don't touch the bar until I say so, or until it starts moving down, right? Because if you're experienced, you train very heavy, it does look struggly, but that's just training,
And it should be struggly.
It should be struggly if your goal is, to have some muscle mass, have some strength. If you just train like for super general purposes and just for like well-being, you might get away with training very, very low intensity modes. But in general, I would say, if people ask me how hard should I train, most people train way too soft to get the results that they want. So most people, even elderly people, they need some intensity in training. That should get the adaptation. And a lot of people aren't motivated to train that hard, but are motivated to get the gains they want, right? So the dream has to match the intensity you bring at the training.
I think it is difficult as a beginner, it is very, very difficult to establish how many more reps do you have in the tank before you actually have to fail. And that's those 3 last reps are should be effortful.
Yes, absolutely.
However, how effortful, and that takes me to my next point. Because I train pretty hard.
Yes.
Not as hard as like, no, but I know that I train pretty freaking hard, and I have never sounded like I was like I was in labor. However, because I train by myself, so I don't have to put a show for anybody here. And my mother-in-law came over and told me, you know what, Mariana, you are doing it wrong. Am I? She said, yeah, because you are not like letting it out. The trainer in my group, what group? I don't know. The trainer in my group told me that you have to let a yell. You have to yell the moment that you make the. And I was like, oh my God, that is a thing?
What's the mechanism behind that? If you yell, you increase, I don't know, muscle activation?
Maybe. But I don't know either. Angry, what the hell?
The house.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. And in the gym, there are many guys who do that. Yeah. And of course, that is a call for attention. But my question is, what kind of breathing pattern should you have to maximize your strength in one particular very effortful like set or rep?
Yeah.
Is there a pattern?
Yeah. Yes. So the general recommendation I give for anyone who asks about breathing is, first of all, don't overcomplicate breathing. So don't necessarily hold your breath for 20 seconds. Also, don't hyperventilate, like breathe very rapidly and intensely. Just breathe normally as you would fit, because usually your body regulates it pretty well. It's a homeostatic system, breathing. It's not like you can breathe too much. You would have to do some very weird things to breathe too much. So it's normally self-regulatory. But if you lift very heavy, the general recommendation is that you breathe in. For example, when you squat, you are in the top of a squat, you breathe in, and then there is this very infamous Valsalva maneuver. You can Google it, right? Yeah. Which essentially means you take a big lump of air in, you hold the air tight in your abdomen, and you put your tongue on the roof. Like, I don't know what's it called, the Gaumen, right, in German, and
palate. The rhythm of your mouth.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you hold your tongue up on the roof of your mouth. And then basically that really does help with keeping your body aligned and stable. Because if you were, for example, to breathe out during the downward movement of a squat, your body would loosen. And if you breathe in and hold the air tight, it essentially functions as making you like a wooden statue. Exactly. And that stability, you always want to have stability during a heavy lift. That helps with performance and safety. With deadlifting, with squatting, you always want to keep that neutral position. And you best keep it if you breathe in, hold your air, and then do your repetition, and then breathe out. And that usually regulates itself if you get more experience, that you breathe in, and then keep the tension during the repetition, then breathe out. And that's the normal pattern that you should in general use. If you do cardio, it's less important because you're less potential injury risk, right? If you just run, you can breathe however you like so that you don't get any problems. But with lifting, it does usually come down to this Valsalva maneuver. If you do heavy squats, it's less important. If you do bicep curls, then you can probably breathe a lot more fluidly. But if you do them heavy, I mean, you still have to. Yeah, maybe, exactly. But that's the general pattern with breathing. You don't want to hold your breath for too long. A big mistake is if you keep your air in and then you do many reps and then you get like red-headed and might lose, consciousness. I don't know. If you keep your breath
that would be like
don't do that.
Horrible end to that set. Okay.
But definitely breathe, because if you don't breathe, like the oxygen helps with performance. Your muscles need oxygen during exercise. So if you don't breathe,
I have made that mistake.
Yes.
I have made that mistake.
But in general, the recommendation is to just keep a very stable body when there's a lot of tension, because then you maximize or minimize injury risk and maximize performance. That's usually what you want to do. And there are some studies, for example, if for those who are very into the topic, that if you do like I'm sure your listeners have heard of the Wim Hof method, where you do hyperventilation,
right?
And then like a certain breathing technique, And if you do that before lifting, it can enhance your performance slightly a little bit because you're more oxygenated basically. But I wouldn't go so far as to recommend that to people.
No, it's
to make you lightheaded.
It's too what do you call
fancy.
that? It's too fancy. I used to do that because of the depression part, and it is incredible how many more push-ups I can do after I finish that last breath.
Yes.
It's magical. But I cannot be doing that every time that I'm going to lift. That's just crazy.
Exactly. Exactly.
People would think I'm crazy. No.
Yeah.
I found this sentence, and I have seen it many a time about the gym and about things that you are not supposed to be doing in the gym. And it's the curling and squat rack.
Oh, the curling and squat rack.
Can you please explain my listeners what's the deal with that?
What's the deal? So how can we approach this? So there are people who, I'm sure listeners know what a squat rack is. Squat rack is the place where you have a barbell and you do your squats, your full body leg movements. Mm-hmm. And there are some people who go in there and use the whole squat rack to curl, to do a barbell curl, to work on their back.
To stand in front of the mirror.
To stand in front of the mirror and to use like as much place as possible, to alpha, to be alpha. Very typical thing. And that's very bad etiquette. That's very bad manners to do in the gym, because as we know, squatting is the most important movement pattern for the human body you can do, probably, in order to keep fit and healthy, because it trains literally your whole body if you do heavy squats. So if you could do one movement, you would do squats. And if somebody comes here and takes the squat rack in order to curl and to be macho about it, it's
so annoying
thing. Yeah.
Now the other thing is that if you go to a gym that is like a McFit, there are like 1,000 different squat racks. But if you go to a normal gym in your neighborhood, they are going to have like maximum 2.
Yes.
And they tend to be, depending on the hour that you go, they tend to be like always busy, and you're waiting for your turn, you're waiting for your spot, and then you see some person like taking the space and standing in front of it doing stupid bicep curls. No, go do your stupid bicep curls in front of the bathroom. That was the rant.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't take up people's space, because you can do the exercise somewhere else, right? So that's the part.
That is etiquette. That is gym etiquette. Let's move on to hygiene measures in the gym.
Yes. Looks like you've had some bad experiences from your...
Man, you have no idea how happy I am that I train in my house right now. I'm going to get in trouble for this, and I don't care. Latin culture, people in Latin America, I don't know if you know many of those. We are obsessed with showering. We are obsessed with showering and smelling flowery. Not smelling bad, but smelling flowery.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed. Okay.
No, it is. It's like the amount, or at least in Colombia, where I come from, the amount of tolerance for BO is very, very low. Very low.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And it's kind of obsessive. Now that I have been here in Europe for a while, I realize how extreme we are in the other direction. Yeah. But then because of that, we have very sensitive noses, and we are very particular. Maybe that's why I'm weird about feet.
It might be that there is legitimately a difference in smell, in sensitivity to bad smell. I think, yeah. There is a lot of individual differences between people, even in the same culture. Some people smell a lot more than others. That's very interesting.
But regardless, so I was very excited to come to Germany, because it's such a beautiful country, such beautiful things, so amazing quality of life.
Yeah.
But man, the tolerance for normal, and what I understand now are rather normal body odors, is too much for me. It's too much. No healthy human should smell the way that some people smell in the gym. I mean, not a living human. No way. And the thing is that I am the only one who complains. I am the only one that looks weird. Everybody looks at me like, "Whoa, what a bitch." It smells like he's been buried for 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, because I don't have that experience. I have that maybe once every 6 months or so. But in my gym, everyone's pretty hygienic, I would say. It might depend on the gym, really. And
it might depend on the gym as well. And the other thing is that there is this practice in which people go to work, and then after going to work, which might be manual labor, they just go to the gym and they don't take a shower before going to the gym.
Yeah, that's probably a bit too much. Yeah.
Because fresh sweat doesn't smell like anything.
Exactly, yeah.
Or it shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
Fresh sweat doesn't smell like anything. New sweat, reviving the spirit of the old sweat. It's just too much for my poor Colombian nose. I have to say, no, man.
It's almost like how do you say it? It's like a physical infringement if you don't, or it's like almost it's not, more than bad manners if you smell like shit, and you go in front of people. It's like you're literally doing damage to their,
I feel so insulted, really, and I'm always scared. I'm always scared that it might attach to my hair, like when you go to clubs and you smell like smoke, and then it touches your hair, like, oh my god, my hair could start smelling like shit. No. But just a side note, guys, if you're listening, and you have very, very hard manual labor before going to the gym, take a little shower before. It doesn't take long. It's just etiquette. Okay, it's just etiquette. Now,
before we continue with the episode, let me tell you the latest news from our associates from DrinkLMNT. This time they appear with an amazing new flavor for limited time only to cozy up our cold season with mint chocolate. Now think about that. Heat up some water, mix in your packet of mint chocolate, and get ready to be transported to the coziest, saltiest, most hydrating holiday treat out there. Now, if you think that it's a little too weird to hydrate with a hot beverage, totally missing out. You're absolutely missing out. Healthy hydration doesn't need to be sweet or cold to be tasty or refreshing. It can be enjoyed just as much around a cozy fire as it can be around the gym. And yes, even though temperatures have dropped, hydration is still just as important during the winter as it is during the sweatiest times of the year. Did you know that because of cold, your body tends to forget about being thirsty, and then you can end up being super dehydrated? Plus, if you're drinking lots of tea and lots of coffee to stay warm, you might be peeing all of your goodies out. So make sure that you follow the link in the description. Head on to DrinkLMNT website. Order as much as you can, because one is out, it is out. And have a happy cold season. Stay salty and never forget to self-regulate.
My gym, where they used to sell these, of course, the protein powders and protein shakes and all of these things, and they have a huge jar of BCAAs that all the bros go and pay money for, and they drink it as they train, because otherwise
increases your muscle protein.
Of course, you're gaining all kinds of gains. Mm-hmm. What is your opinion on BCAA?
Well, my opinion is it's stupid, and what the science says, it's not effective for anything much at all. No, it can be effective in certain scenarios. So basically, the marketing claim of BCAAs is the branched chain amino acids are the most important amino acids for building muscle, which is true. So usually marketing is you take something that's true and then you bullshit the hell out of it in order to sell something. So it's almost like a joke, you take something that's kind of true and then you make it a joke. And with BCAAs, the claim is you take this, you increase your muscle protein synthesis, basically, and then you gain more muscle, which is not true if you already have enough BCAAs in your nutrition. And
why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Many people don't know that if you eat a full protein source, with a full amino acid profile, which is meat, fish, dairy, almost any protein source, cheese, even whey protein, for example, it's just a full protein source. So you can just have enough protein in your diet and you don't need BCAAs. The only scenario where you would need BCAAs is if you were on a very weird vegan diet where you get only certain types of proteins, if you just eat rice or beans, and then you add BCAAs in order to complete your amino acid profile. But the way it is marketed, especially for those prices, you just essentially, you expensify your piss, essentially.
Exactly, and they are not that cheap.
They're not cheap at all. That's an interesting thing. Like if you want to have a supplement, you can have like whey protein. It's a really good substitute for a meal, for protein. It's just protein source. But BCAAs alone, they don't help at all.
They don't do shit.
Yeah.
And I have a question. Where do they synthesize BCAAs? I mean, like, how do they like separate these amino acids and put them in a pill form or powder form?
I actually don't know about the manufacturing progress much at all, but yeah, it's probably just an extraction, like I don't know, I don't know the term in English, but you just filter out the certain types of protein, and then I actually don't know about why you're asking?
Because if a vegan, for example, wants to take BCAAs because to help their amino acid profile, and they happen to come from milk, just like whey,
probably,
yeah, and you're poorer.
I see. Usually they do come from milk. Yeah, milk protein.
They usually do come from milk.
Yeah. So I mean,
don't be a vegan, man.
Don't be. I don't recommend it to people in general. So unless you do it for very ethical reasons, I mean, to each their own. Like the problem with nutrition is people make a religion out of it and are very dogmatic. And I mean, there's nothing magical about being vegan. There's nothing magical about being an omnivore. There's nothing cool about being paleo. I mean, if it sounds cool, just a healthy diet. Carnivore, you're like a lion. I don't know.
It sounds cool. But I have to say, I was pretty crazy about the keto thing when I started. I was like, I had joined a fucking cult. But it is
human nature. Yes.
I think so.
I mean, the thing is this: it does help to get people in the game, but then as you learn about nutrition, it loses the magic, and then you
need to calm down.
Yeah. So that's why you have to sell people what they want, but give them what they need. So you have to sell them the new cool diets, but then you give them nutritional knowledge, and then they cool, right? So that's it's always psychology. It's always consumer psychology. So it doesn't sell. Exactly. It doesn't sell if I say, read this scientific nutrition plan. It will get you to your goals. It's like, what the hell? That doesn't solve my pain. If I say,
I don't know how to read that shit.
Exactly. Get jacked in 3 weeks. Oh, that's interesting. Right?
That is very true. And I'm going to go with another one now that we are talking about supplements, and we are and there is this another one that is creatine. Creatine has come into my life because I'm a keto gainer, but my husband, my love, was very worried about me taking creatine because he thought I was going to turn to a dude, and my mom was also pretty worried about that. What is your opinion on taking creatine in the context of lifting?
Creatine is the most researched and the most also safe, super safe supplement. It's even safer, for example, than to consume a lot of caffeine. For example, what people don't know, it's like if you overconsume caffeine in order to have lifting performance, that might even be negative. Like that's what I tend to do, for example, with work and everything. But creatine is super safe, first of all, because it's so well researched. It's dirt cheap, even though it is safe, and it can drastically increase performance. So there are, for example, some studies even showing that it might help, for example, for even cognitive benefits like Alzheimer's. There's some research. But in terms of lifting, you might be able to get like 3-4 more reps with a hard set, right? If you train intensely, you really feel the difference because it's just basically the energy system, the creatine phosphate system is just generally better supplied. You basically have the tanks are more full for that energy system. That's how you can think about it. And then you can tap into that energy system a lot more easily. And it's very hard to get a lot of creatine from your diet. It is found in food, after all. You'd have to eat a lot of red meat. That's the problem why usually creatine is just an absolute no-brainer in terms of risk benefits because there's no risk essentially. You just have benefit and it's cheap.
And what would be the daily recommended dose for women and for men?
Usually you can do a loading phase at the start where you take up to 20 grams, for example, like 5 grams 4 times a day for a couple of days or a week, and then you taper it down. But what I usually recommend is just to take a flat 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate just daily. It doesn't matter if you fill up your creatine stores right away or if it's slowly filled and then you keep them filled essentially. It also doesn't matter if you miss a dose, for example. It sounds almost like a medication, but it's really just
it sounds like the pill.
It sounds like the pill, right? If you miss your pill, like take the pill after. Yeah, it's like if you miss a daily dose of creatine, you can just double the dose the next day and it's fine. Your creatine stores will fill. So if I didn't take my creatine today, the 5 grams, I would just take 10 grams tomorrow. And it's super safe. It's well metabolized. There is no real risk associated with taking creatine. One more point before you go ahead. The thing you said about turning into the hull, it does increase water retention if you take creatine, right? But what people don't know is they think it makes you look watery. But for most people, that's not true, because it's not the subcutaneous water that's being held, but below that, so in the muscle. So basically, your muscles can look a bit fuller.
So it makes you look more jacked.
It makes you look more jacked, but not a lot for most people. But it can be significant. It can be significant.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So for example, it might be like up to 1 kilo or 2 more water weight.
Wow.
And that's usually defined as lean body mass, because lean body mass is a lot of water, right? So not fat.
Right.
Yeah. Fat
I heard that women were worried that that was going to make them retain water. Then they assume that they're just going to look fat.
No, you won't look fat on creatine. I mean, you can try it and you'll see. So
nah, I haven't.
So that's why many people are afraid. Like, if I am on a diet, should I take creatine? Yes, you can always take creatine. So even like
in
it might have
some days.
cognitive. Exactly.
That was the other thing. And for cognitive benefits, is the same dose?
The thing is this about cognitive stuff is usually there are effects of stuff like vitamins, supplements, if you're deficient in something. So for example, if you have like Alzheimer's or a severe deficiency of certain vitamins, usually what a supplementation does, it raises, it's like a modulator. It's not like, it's sort of like sleep. If you don't sleep enough, you function like shit. But then if you sleep enough, you function to your fullest. And it seems to be the same with creatine if you have some deficiency, right? If you have certain, I'm not an expert in that area. So I've just read some studies that it might help with certain neurodegenerative diseases. So that might be of help as a modulator, right?
I'm going to get my old folks on creatine.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. And even if they, have a little bit better muscle function when sitting down or standing up, that might be a benefit.
And now that we are in the creatine part, what about the carnitine, the fat burning carnitine that is going to melt my whole fat away?
Yes. So exactly that if you hear fat burner or this will turn you lean in a few weeks, usually supplements do very little in terms of building muscle or burning fat, unless it's like a hormone like testosterone that really helps for building muscle, what pro bodybuilders use. But the typical supplements that are legally available, in overall, they don't do a lot. They maybe help a little bit with certain things. For example, green tea extract can really help a little bit with your calorie burning, so you expend a little bit more energy. With carnitine, the evidence is very not there. So carnitine is involved in the fat burning process, but from the things that have been researched, it doesn't really matter compared to, say, like if you told me, should I take carnitine in order to lose fat, I would rather say, no, don't eat those 2 bananas extra. I'd rather leave those out.
And you'll be better off.
And you'll be better off because you save so many more calories compared to maybe if you add a 0.5% more energy expenditure if you drank 1 gram of carnitine, for example. So the people are missing the context of the information, right? Because it's obviously marketed very cool, like green tea extract, L-carnitine, they burn fat. Often it can be an indirect effect. So for example, caffeine, if you use it strategically, can blunt your appetite and indirectly help you burn fat, right? But carnitine, I usually don't recommend at all. And because there's just not enough reason.
It would be nice if there were a magic pill that you can just take and all of the fat on your ass is going to just melt away. Just melt away. Like that translation that I did. Oh my God, my soul. But what are you gonna do?
I mean the things I've experimented with, like for example, are certain amino acids that might help improve concentration and focus. For example, why people like to drink green tea as a supplement or as a for mood enhancement and even for work performance is mostly because of the theanine content. So L-theanine, that's an amino acid that's involved in basically certain processes that help you focus. So L-theanine is something you could, for example, try supplementing and see if you see a difference. Most people don't see a difference. I see a little bit of a difference, for example, if I take a low dose. but it's just, that those amino acids that are also found in food, and certain foods have a lot more effect on that. So if you eat salmon, for example,
And about the theanine, what time would you supplement it?
You would supplement it with caffeine, because it's basically like, it makes the effect of caffeine less jittery and more stable. That's why green tea has a lot more stable energy profile, mental energy profile. So for example, if you take 200 milligrams of caffeine, like a strong coffee, you would take 200 milligrams of theanine with it, and it is more like a green tea in terms of
more
effect.
mellow.
Exactly. The caffeine is less making you jittery and making you more, but it's a little effect for most people. So I feel it a little bit, but it does help me with, if I have boring work to do and need to focus a lot, it does help. So it's not that supplements you can nothing matters and nothing works. That's not true, but you have to experiment a bit, right?
The effect is normally very minimal, and there are some other things that you can do that are more practical and that make more sense to do.
Exactly, like sleeping enough, for example. That's the big brain booster, right? Exactly.
Like a calorie deficit.
Exactly. That's always the discussion always needs to revolve around that. In general.
Right. I did buy L-theanine because somebody recommended it to me, or I read someplace that it was good for sleeping. So I took it in the night. I had the weirdest ass dreams that you can ever imagine. Oh my God, it was haunting. I did sleep better.
I've never tried it at night.
Shit, it was so vivid. It was terrifying.
No, in the morning with my coffee, if I take it.
I'm gonna give it a try. Because those dreams that freaked me out, they freaked me out like hell. And plus, I had to pee, so it was a very, very confusing dream. A horrible dream.
The mysteries of the unconscious, they always.
I know, and I'm always looking for a bathroom, and they are all dirty, or they don't have doors, and okay, I just railed off. Now, I have one more, a bonus one. That has to do with gym etiquette and installations that we have in the gym. That is the sauna. I understand that sauna has lots of benefits. I love going to the sauna. However, my question is a lot more disturbing. Is it absolutely necessary to be butt naked when you are in the sauna?
I mean,
Tell me.
Look, for me, it's very disgusting if someone is completely naked and exposes their whole, their whole things in front of you. Usually elderly people, in my experience, do that a lot. They don't care at all. It's even more interesting because it hangs even more. Well, the thing is that I think it's a cultural thing as well. In certain cultures, they probably are very reserved, and I don't know. But in Austria, for example, it's somewhat in the middle, I would say. So people are usually a little bit more conservative, but the elderly people just don't give a shit at all, so they don't care at all. It's nothing matters anymore,
because the Germans are full-blown naked.
Yes. In Germany, it's probably even worse than in Austria.
And for me, it was such a shock. And I thought at some point that everybody, like old countries in Europe, were like that. No, as I found out, the Germans are pretty hardcore with their bowling.
I mean, as a woman, for example, if you want to go to the sauna alone, it must be a horrible experience, I must imagine. So, right, if you have those. I don't know.
The thing is that for me it was such a shock because I'm Latin Americans. It's a very weird culture because you are used to dress very provocatively and all of your jeans are super tight, and then you are supposed to be super sexy and then your teeth out and everything. But going wearing a bikini, it's already crazy. Being naked in front of people, you can fucking forget it. No way. Showing a nipple is out of the question.
Really? Is that in all Southern America, or is that
pretty much
really?
No, but maybe the Brazilians are a little more, there's samba things. Boom. But in general, Latin America, maybe no, we don't like to be naked in front of people.
The nipple thing. I mean, the culture is definitely changing. Also, that's a little bit off topic maybe, but what I see, for example, younger people now here, the students, it's almost like a new hippie age. It's almost a new liberal age. People really, they don't wear bras anymore, and they you have to go be free, right? It's a little bit like a new hippie phase, I assume. It seems to be coming. that way, that people dress more freely, and I don't know. I'm not a
I
big
have
fan.
noticed that, and the girls start wearing like super baggy shits on, like you don't even know if there is a body underneath, and
and you can like go to the to the pool without a bra. It shouldn't be a problem. Like people shouldn't be bothered, and there have been these cases. It's like super weird. Like to me, the reason you can't shut off human nature, right? If a man sees a naked woman, it just does something to your biology, and no idea or dogma that you have that everybody should be equal. Yeah, I mean, if two naked men see each other, yeah, okay. But if a man sees a naked woman, it's different. It's just, we have certain animalistic drives, and it's just not appropriate in most things. But I mean, there are certain political elements to that too. So
I have a very hard time with that thing, because I think that going to the sauna is a pretty awesome plan. I mean, like, absolutely. If you think about it, you go in there, you heat up your stuff, you go out, you sleep a little bit. It's like you're wearing your robe. It's an amazing plan. But dude, the nakedness, it drives me crazy. And here in Germany, they go so far as to kick you out of the sauna when you are wearing a bikini, if you're not naked. And I have come to the realization that I have forced myself to go. Always with my husband, of course. But it's so shocking. In the beginning, it was so hard. I mean, like, I realized how horrible the human body is. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's like this hippie thing. And your body is beautiful. Love yourself like you are. You don't, bitch. Don't lose weight. Like now. Like yesterday. No.
Yes, I mean that's what I mean. The trend, body acceptance, everything's happy. You shouldn't wear. It's a bit hippie, So
yeah, I don't like that. I like to see people who look good. Yeah. And that's difficult. Of course, that's difficult. You have to work hard. But I don't. That other thing, and maybe off topic as well. I don't like to see fat models.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like to see fat models. I don't want to see people with weird shit in their faces, like showing me clothes. I don't want to look like that. I want somebody who makes me feel bad about my body so that I can be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing wrong with having that. That's the thing. Like Bill Burr and certain comedians in America talk about this. It's nothing wrong that someone has just a beautiful face or a beautiful body and you take them as a model. I mean, they make you feel a certain way, right? And then if someone else comes and says we have to, also make uglier people models, like, okay, why? I mean, that's just dogmatic, right? Don't. It's just I want to have an ideal. And I want to feel bad about my body when I see those ideals, because I have a lot of work to do. That is, like, who are you to have the audacity to think that you should also be a model if you are not a model? I mean, I know that certain people just have a lot better bodies than me. That's okay, it's like this weird thing in society. Yeah, exactly. Right. Some people are more muscular. Some people are smarter. It's okay. It's just the world by default is not fairly distributed. So
exactly.
Right.
And whenever I go, and that thing that you were telling me that I mean, like, when you see naked people, I had never seen so many naked people in my life, so it was quite shocking. Yeah, of course. You've never. Where would I?
It's a market get, like dressed saunas or something. That's a new thing, right? Nobody does it.
Maybe just sound not. I don't even feel good about going naked in the Umkleidekabine with other women in. I don't know, man. I don't want to see that. No. However, I cannot stop myself. Like in Germany, I mean, everybody looks like at this level. Everybody but me, man. I am looking at everything. I'm such an embarrassing for my man. And he's like, stop looking at people. You can't help it. I don't want to.
You can't stop it, or?
I can't. No. So there is no scientific reason why you would have to show all of yourself in the sauna. No, unless
you have the goal of, I don't know, exposing yourself.
And if you do, you shouldn't be allowed in such places.
Probably, yes. Yeah.
Thomas,
I agree.
It was, as always, a pleasure talking to you.
Heartwarming. Also, yes.
You're adorable.
It was.
I will see you then. Bye.
Bye.
I'll see you around. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you liked it, please let us know in the comments. If you didn't like it, let us know in the comments to let us know how we can improve. If you would like to watch some more, please feel free to snoop around. And if you found this information to be valuable, please don't hesitate to share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe, click the notification button so that you don't miss any of our future videos. And thank you for watching.